When you wake up to studio buyouts, you think it's probably going to be a pretty good week for gaming news, and that's the hope anyway. It looks like we've got some huge information as Square Enix has entered into a agreement to be sold out. And again, this is something that I just was shocked by this morning. I woke up and you see some of the announcements and you see this. This was the first thing I saw. Basically, was kind of one of those things where it was really just destroying my timeline. Everybody talking about this, and I think the main reason why it was actually such a talked about thing was strictly because at the end of the day, you have a situation where this is like super unexpected, and I think that is really the main thing that probably took people by surprise. And I want to get into it pretty quickly. It's not who you would think, right? And I'm going to get into why it's maybe not who you would think. Basically, Embracer Group has entered into agreement to buy Eidos, Square, Crystal Dynamics, and Square Enix Montreal for a measly $300 million. Embracer Group has gained such IPs as Tomb Raider, Deus Ex, Thief, Legacy of Kain, and more. Embracer Group has agreed and entered into an agreement to acquire Crystal Dynamics, Eidos Montreal, Square Enix Montreal, and a catalog of IP including Tomb Raider, Deus Ex, Thief, Legacy of Kain, more than 50 back catalog games from Square Enix Holdings for a paltry $300 million. Embracer shared the news in a press release saying the acquisition includes roughly 1,100 employees across 3 studios and 8 global locations. The deal, if it goes through, is expected to close in quarter 2 of Embracer's financial year 2022-2023. And this is what they had to say about it. We are thrilled to welcome these studios into Embracer Group. We recognize the fantastic IP, world-class creative talent, and track record of excellence that have been demonstrated time and time again over the past decades. It has been a great pleasure meeting the leadership teams and discussing future plans for how they can realize their ambitions and become a great part of Embracer. This was according to Lars Wingefors, co-founder and group CEO of Embracer Group. Embracer is the best kept secret in gaming, a massive, decentralized collection of entrepreneurs whom are thrilled to become a part of today. It's the perfect fit for our ambition: make high-quality games with great people sustainably and grow our existing franchises to their best versions ever. Embracer allows us to forge new partnerships across all media to maximize our franchises' potentials and live our dreams of making extraordinary entertainment, according to Phil Rogers, Square Enix of America and Europe CEO. Once the deal goes through, Embracer Group will have more than 14,000 employees, 10,000 game developers, and 124 internal studios. It's also confirmed that it has more than 230 games in development, and those studios and more than 30 are AAA titles. The news comes shortly after Crystal Dynamics announced it was developing a brand new Tomb Raider game on Unreal Engine 5. No further details were actually given, but the team did say it was planning to push the envelope of fidelity. Crystal Dynamics is also the studio behind Marvel's Avengers and has been helping Microsoft's The Initiative develop a new Perfect Dark game. Eidos Montreal is the studio behind Thief 4, Deus Ex Human Revolution, Shadow of the Tomb Raider, and more, and is working on a host of AAA projects, including both new releases from beloved and original IP. Square Enix Montreal is responsible for such games as Hitman Go, Tomb Raider Go, and Deus Ex Go, and will continue to work in the mobile space, building games based on AAA IP. Of course, Embracer Group is actually no stranger to acquisitions, as it has been undergoing a rapid expansion over the past few years. Some of the other companies it has acquired are Dark Horse Comics, 3D Realms, Ghost Ship, Gearbox, THQ Nordic, Saber Interactive, Koch Media, and many more. Now, the interesting thing here is, for me personally, a lot of people are going to ask, hey, why didn't you pick up why didn't Microsoft pick up this team? $300 million, you own Tomb Raider and all these IP and, 3 or 4 studio. I think, or why didn't Sony buy them, right? Why didn't Sony buy this studio, this team? Why didn't Sony go out, that would have been a really big thing. But again, I think that people really kind of lose sight of the fact that Microsoft is in the middle of acquiring the largest ever buyout ever in video game history with Activision, right? That's tied up right now. I don't think they can do much in the interim. And I actually think Sony is tied up with the Bungie deal that still hasn't gone through yet. Like, these things, when they announce them, doesn't mean that they go through that day. They're still, able to go through like regulatory agreements and findings and things like that. You have to be able to pass all of those things, and that's what they've got to do. So, what if the whole idea is that neither one of these companies could move on this, based on the fact that at the end of the day, they're still working on having other deals go through. So imagine if, like, okay, so if you're a Sony fan, let's just say for instance, you're a Sony fan, and which would you rather have right now? Would you have rather had Sony bought these studios and all those IP associated for $300 million, or almost $4 billion for Bungie, who are never going to make exclusive games for PlayStation? Again, also, like, on the Xbox side, would you rather have these IP and those studios, or would you rather have Activision, who are making games for literally everybody still? Like, yeah, there could be some exclusives there at some point, but what we're seeing so far right now is the fact that, these things are kind of happening at a weird kind of situation for all involved. So, I do find that to be a little bit odd and a little bit strange. And, for me personally, I kind of look at this as a couple of different ways. Like, would I have rather had... personally, I just think that I would rather have Sony or Microsoft that own them. It just makes sense, especially with the IP and stuff like that. And, the funny thing is, Square Enix is actually in one of the more stupid moves that I've ever heard. The parent company, one of the reasons they sold off these companies and these studios and IP is because they want to focus on NFTs and blockchains. Think about that. Like, talk about not reading a room correctly. It's just is crazy the way that this happens. But it does have some Xbox ties. If you are an Xbox fan, the Initiative's Perfect Dark reboot is going to remain co-developed by Crystal Dynamics following this. Earlier today, it was announced out of the blue that Embracer Group had announced intentions to purchase Square Enix Montreal, Eidos, and Crystal Dynamics. As most will recall, the latter is helping out Microsoft's The Initiative studio on a new Perfect Dark entry. So will Embracer's new deal affect the development of the new Perfect Dark entry? Well, according to The Initiative, this won't be the case, as Crystal Dynamics will keep acting as co-developer of the game. They said, "We're excited to see Crystal Dynamics take these next steps with their studios." The official The Initiative Twitter account tweeted, "Our team have made some great progress in building Perfect Dark together as co-development partners, and we will continue to work with them as during this next chapter." The collaboration between the Initiatives and Crystal Dynamics was announced late last year, after which Xbox Game Studios' Matt Booty pointed out, when it was clear that it was possible, it was a no-brainer to have Crystal Dynamics help out on Perfect Dark. It was not a standard situation because they are not usually billing themselves as a co-development studios like many places are, but we found a way to make it work. So I'm excited about it in terms of what it adds onto the team that we've already got there at the Initiative. It's too precious of a resource in the industry right now not to jump on that. Interestingly, recent reports suggest that as much as half of the Initiative's core team working on Perfect Dark is said to have quit the company over some discourse over the last year, which right now it's supposedly in a pretty good spot, and the people that left wanted a little bit more autonomy at the studio, and even rumblings that possibly they wanted to release the game as a in different pieces, like different chapters, and release them as they come out. Personally, I prefer Gallagher's idea, who is the studio head at the Initiative, where he said he wants, it wants to be like a full-on game. I don't want little bits and pieces of a game. I would much rather have something along the lines of, a full release. I don't like I can remember the old Hitman games where they were releasing it a little bit at a time or whatever, and I much prefer to release of the whole game. So it's very interesting in multiple facets because, like I said, what if, Microsoft hadn't bought Activision? Was this be something they would have jumped on? Or what if, Sony hadn't been, buying Bungie? Is this something they would have jumped on? I think that's something that us as gamers and fans can probably look to and go, it's, it depends. Like, I think that you might have people kind of, thinking about this one way or the other, and I do feel like this is something that a lot of gamers are going to be talking about, and it's just crazy to think, and such a cheap price too, especially with the inflated price of all these studios and things like that lately, and all the IP. I mean, it's crazy. 300 million? That's crazy. Think about this, right? That's not a whole lot of money. Well, I mean, it is to the average person, but in terms of these buyouts and stuff, I don't honestly think that's a whole ton of money. So, what do you guys hope to see from this in the future? I just hope the games continue. I want to see another Guardians of the Galaxy. I want Tomb Raider to continue. I would love to see Sleeping Dogs continue. But really, what do you guys think? Rack 'em up, fact 'em up, Crap Gamer 'em up. I'm Crap Gamer. This is Crap Gamer Reviews. Peace.